You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 131 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewert, and as always, I am with my techie friend, Jeff Gargas.
Techie friend, huh?
You're my techie friend. You're just always the person I go to when I need tech support. You're practically like, what is that thing that you call?
Geek Squad?
Geek Squad. You're Geek Squad, but you're like the president.
I did have a stint in my life where I worked at Best Buy, so,
That makes you very techie.
Not really, but sure.
I mean, you were around electronics. Does that not count?
That's true. Yeah, I sold computers and I sold TVs when I was younger too. So I guess, yeah, maybe, whatever. Typically if you ask me anything about something, if I don't know, I just Google, right?
I do know that because I've caught you doing it before, and I sat there in shock being like, holy moly, he really just Googles everything.
I'm surprised one of your words hasn't been, or you haven't used, as always, I'm with my Google and friend,
That's true. Maybe that'll be next episode.
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you about something here. So this episode, super cool episode, I thought it was cool. It's kind of a different vantage point and someone who is very much in the classroom environment space, right? Kevin is. And we talked a lot about sort of what he sees when he's out working with schools and districts and ways that the environment can have such an impact on student learning and success. And I'm going to give you some props. And I know people, if you're listening, brace yourself. I'm about to compliment Ray.
Whoa.
I love your classroom. No. Don't interrupt me when I'm giving you compliments, Ray.
Yikes.
This is very rare right now. So, but no, your classroom, I love your classroom environment. You have a lot of different seating options. There's a lot of different places for your kids to be and interact in. You really set a really cool environment in the way that it looks and feels and everything like that. And I thought it'd be kind of cool, if you don't mind, can you share sort of when you originally designed and changed the way you design your classrooms, or when you set up your classroom different for each year, or maybe I don't know how often you changed throughout the year, but sort of what you think through and how you make the decisions for how you create that environment in your room?
Yeah, Jeff, I just think that I'm like on the extreme end. So for all of our listeners, I apologize in advance. So I think environment is massively important in the classroom. And for the first few years of teaching, I had those horrible bulky desks where like the chair's attached to the desk and they're like massive and no student fits in it, right? It's like that joke of that TED Talk that they make a cockpit for the pilot, the average pilot, and then no pilot actually fits in it. That's kind of how I feel like desks are. And so when I had my opportunity to write a grant, I essentially wrote a grant in hopes that I could just get rid of every ugly desk possible, because my students would always say how uncomfortable they are. No teacher would choose by choice to sit in them. Like, holy cow, I need to change something. And this was right around the time I was getting a new classroom. So I first started with painting an entire wall of my classroom into a chalk wall. I don't know if you guys follow me on social media, but I love having a huge space for students to put their work. It really sets the tone for all of our themed internships we do. I just love the kind of creativity that we have with that. And then as I tried to hunt to figure out what seating options my students wanted or needed, I really just went to them. I really believe that students can be a really important driver in this movement that teachers are slowly taking to switch up their space. So I went on Amazon, I bought all these different things with the grants. The students helped me. We voted. We did all these awesome like polls and research projects. And to be honest with you, we wanted to purchase things that students loved that were extremely versatile. So when you made a comment earlier, like, oh, Ray, I don't know how often you switch up your room. I won't lie to you, Jeff. I switched up my room today twice during two different times throughout the day. I do, because the space is warranted for it. We have folding tables that fold in half, so I can essentially they're super light and easy to move. Students are either in stools or rolly chairs, or I mean, we have 1,000 different items. And we also have bed risers that turn our tables into high-rise tables for like bar stools. And so I think the final way my classroom ended today, I think, is that I had like this row of tables along my chalk wall and then 2 tables in like a high top sequence. And then I had a bunch of seating along the windows this afternoon, but students change them constantly depending on what we're doing. And I really love that. It's not chaotic so much as it's intentional for the learning opportunity. And what more could you ask for students to be intentional, not only with their learning, but with their physical space when they're, exploring new content?
Yeah, I like it, and I appreciate you diving in that, because your room is really cool, because like the kids just feel comfortable everywhere they are, because they have so many options and different things, and so that you can tell they have that ownership over it, and because they're where they want to be, so they're in a position that they want to be in when they are going to be best to learn and stuff like that. So super cool. We talk a lot about that. So talking about this episode, so Kevin Stoller is he's actually the founder of a company called K12, and it's KAY hyphen 12 spelled out.com. And they work with schools. They provide all sorts of resources and actual products for design and classroom environments. So chairs, tables, different seating options and stuff like that. And what they really love doing is working with schools, with teachers and districts to learn about their goals, and really like they actually like get in there. It's not just like, hey, let me sell you some stuff. They work with them to understand what their learning goals are, what their students are like, what their teachers are like, and to fit and create actual learning environments. And Kevin started the company 8 years ago, and he now helps run it. They have locations, a couple different locations around. But I really love his viewpoint. That is really cool. I love the fact that we bring people in that aren't always in that are different positions in education, because you get to see this viewpoint of the world we're in from a different angle, right? From a different perspective. And I really think Kevin shares some really cool perspectives. He kicks us off pretty early talking about sort of this vision that he thinks is going to happen to the world of education in the next 2 to 5 years. I really enjoyed his story on his failure. Was a lot of fun. And I really think he said some stuff about getting rid of the things that we know cause harm, and I really like what he was talking about when he talks about that. So I want you to listen really close to that, and get in there. So Ray, anything you want people to really take away from this episode?
He was speaking my language. I think he's somebody that after this episode you're going to want to go follow up and ask questions to. So make sure you connect with him, because it seems like he's like always up for a conversation.
Really cool. And they actually have a book, and toward the end of the episode, he's going to let you know, and we're going to share how you can get that book for free for everybody who listens, by the way. So make sure you check that out. Let's dive into episode 131 with Kevin Stoller.
Hey everyone, it's Ray. We are about to get right back to the episode, but I wanted to make sure you are a part of our Facebook group. The Teach Better team has a private Facebook group that has grown so much over the past few months, and we continue to do live sessions, answer questions, and have teachers share their lesson plan ideas so we can all collaborate together. Head over to Facebook and search Teach Better Team to request to join, or you can head to teachbettergroup.com and request there. Either way, we'll see you over on Facebook. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, we're here and we are chatting with Kevin Stoller. And Kevin, it's great to have you on the Teach Better Talk podcast tonight. We're looking forward to kind of diving into your brain, learning about what you do and your unique perspective on education, and just having some fun with you tonight. Before we get going too far, man, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys. I've been listening to the podcast, and it's nice to hear you guys live.
Awesome.
Yeah, Kevin, it's awesome to hear that you're a listener. We appreciate that. Hopefully we haven't this banter Jeff and I hasn't turned you off from now being a guest and sharing your story.
I just hope I can be part of that banter.
Well, so I know I want to thank you, Kevin, because I know it's hard to listen to Ray for too long.
All right, Jeff. Really, this early on? How long are we through this recording?
This early on, that's right.
Well, Kevin, I want to make sure our listeners can learn all about you. So, would you mind kind of telling us all that you do in education, how you usually describe yourself when someone asks you kind of what you do?
Yeah, well, I have this unique opportunity in that I kind of spend my world in like two different worlds. So about half my time is in schools, working with schools, and then the other half is really on the side of entrepreneurship, of where I spend a lot of time with other business owners and try to kind of get a pulse of what's going on in the world. And it's given me a really unique perspective. And because when we're working with schools, like you guys probably know, not every school is updated and has the most effective furniture and learning environments. um, we see it a lot. We see a lot of the ones that are doing a lot of the innovative things that are really effective and showing the results from that, but still the vast majority of schools are not. So being able to work with them on a basis where we understand what they want to do, what their goals are, and then customize a solution for them of what that learning environment would look like, whether they want more of a collaborative or project-based learning type of curriculum, and how to do that on kind of the minimal budget, because we know everyone's got tight budgets, to actually do that, and more importantly be able to train the teachers to utilize the furniture the way that it's intended to be. So when I take that perspective of working with the schools versus what I think is going to happen in the world, because I have some views that I think are drastically going to change education here a lot quicker than most people that I talk to. That's like my sweet spot and what I love talking about.
All right. Well, now I'm going to make you talk about it because you caught my interest there. So, what is it? What's going to happen that you think that's so drastic from what others think? Like, what is it? What do you envision, and how soon is this change coming?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a lot faster than most people, but it's also a big educational system. I think in 2 to 5 years, things are drastically going to be, it's going to be very unrecognizable of how education is viewed. And the reason I think this is colleges, if you look at kind of K 12, if you talk to any school, a lot of the times the result is always what's the goal, and it's to prepare the kids for college.
Mm-hmm.
To some degree. I mean, you'll have some that would be like, no, it's like less focus on that. But it's typically either to help them get into college or help them get into a better college. I mean, it's pretty fair from what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how the parents are judging kind of the success of the school system, is how well they're prepared for college. And with kind of everything that I'm seeing here in that, the national debt crisis that's going on, even the college admission scandals that happened kind of earlier in 2019, where there's so much emphasis on getting into college, that everything is being dictated to that. And then what I'm seeing kind of in the business world and kind of out, when everyone graduates, is that it's becoming more and more kind of this freelance society where people are being hired on their merits, not so much about what their degree was in or how well they performed in school. And we're also seeing a huge growth in what's considered kind of more the co-working spaces that are out there. So the WeWorks and all these ones where that sense of community is what people are seeking. And so my theory and what I think is going to happen pretty quickly is that the stigma of not going to a traditional college, a 4-year degree, is going to be removed. There's going to be a lot more options for students when they finish their senior year of high school, of different places to go. And my big thing is that if you talk to most 18-year-olds, they don't necessarily care about what their major is and and their classes and things. They are just so excited about that college experience and being around other 18-year-olds and kind of going through kind of that meaningful part of their life kind of together. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to see a lot of these schools that are charging a lot in tuition, and there's going to be a pushback of saying, I'm not going to pay all this money for that. I'm going to go kind of live in an area where I could either take online classes, maybe take community college, do whatever I want, or work in an area. But you're basically doing this with peers around them. And there's going to be less of a stigma to that. And the parents aren't going to feel like, oh, my kid's not going to college. They're going to feel like, oh, this is a really good track for them to find their purpose. And And I think it's going to happen pretty quick. I think the price of college is really driving a lot of these changes that people are going to realize it just does not make sense to walk out of school and have $150,000 of debt for a degree that maybe is not necessarily needed. And I know I'm making blatant statements, things like, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, teacher, there's things where you need to do it. But I think we're gonna see kind of the death of the traditional kind of 4 year degree coming here really quick.
Yeah, you are like so in my lane right now. I agree 100 like with that. Now, I in my head I've got a longer timeline, but now I'm really interested to see how quickly it does come. But I do think we're going to see. I think probably in the next 5 years, definitely going to see a lot of universities go under or have to if they don't drastically change soon. They're going to run out. They're going to run out of money because they're going to lose enrollment. And they're going to lose endowments. They're going to lose alumni fund and stuff like that because of all the reasons that you're saying. I think there's so much available now. Knowledge is so available to anyone at their fingertips that you just can't charge the same that you used to. It's not there. I think if they focus on the experience that you're talking about, those co-working opportunities, those networking, the building the relationship stuff like that, those types of colleges will survive. And I think you're seeing some of that,
For sure.
which I think as a sign, it definitely confirms what you're thinking is true because you're seeing colleges making adjustments to things like that. But yeah, that's definitely. I really like your outlook there. We may have to chat.
Yeah. Well,
Another time off time.
what is so exciting about that is when that happens, is now the K-12 education system is now freed up to do what they are meant to do, which is to empower students
Yes,
to really enjoy learning and find their passions.
and stop focusing on just trying to get them into colleges, and rather focus on building people who are ready to take on the world.
Exactly. And
Love
and
it.
to me, that's the most exciting thing, and that's what I keep talking about. And I'm talking to it at both levels. I'm talking to the schools saying this is not your fault. Like
Hmm.
all the requirements and everything that's kind of put on your plate is not your fault. But when it changes, be ready. Be ready to challenge complacency and be ready to say, "Hey, there is a better way to do this, and we're gonna
Yeah,
we're gonna keep working to try to figure out that better way."
I'm hoping that shift also takes some of the ridiculous stress and pressure that is put on teachers right now, and lets them do, like you said, what they want to do, what they love doing, which is empowering kids and allowing them to love learning. And hopefully we can take some of that off and some of those just crazy bars we set and allow them to just go educate kids and build future
Exactly.
members of society. So that's super cool. Really enjoying that. So, all right, let's dive into. You said you listened, so we talk about failure on this. So I want to throw this at you. So, can you share a story with us about a time that you've had a failure in your life? Kind of tell us what happened, how to make you feel, how did you overcome that, and then what'd you take away from that?
Oh, I love failure. That's one of my favorite topics. And I've heard the analogy before of like failure and success. A lot of times they're considered opposites, but they're really not. It's kind of the two sides of the same coin. So you cannot have success without failure. And like for me, like I talk about failing all the time. I fail all the time. So even within as you look at kind of the history of our company, and I don't know if I want to talk about kind of one of the most embarrassing failures that I've had.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what we'd like to hear.
you
Yes.
do you want to hear it? You want to hear
Yeah.
do you want to hear the worst marketing campaign ever?
Let's hear the worst marketing campaign ever.
So for some reason we had this idea that we wanted to try to get like some type of viral video that would go out there. And we came up with this idea of having the K-12 touch your butt challenge. And we were going to have chairs that we would have out kind of in public areas, and somebody would walk up to you and say, "Can we touch your butt?" and get their reaction to it. And of course, their reaction would be like shocked or feel, and then we would pull up
Hmm.
a chair for them to test out and see what they would think on the chair. And it was a huge disaster. Um, and nobody liked it. It was and then think about we're working with schools. Like this is like the most
Yeah.
inappropriate, like stupid campaign that you can do. Um, so it was a pretty huge failure. I'm still trying to scrub it off of YouTube, but there's still videos out there that are I can't get rid of. And but the success that came from that is it really helped lead us to find out who we are and what we really care about. And when we realize what are we doing, this is not at all what we want to be doing, and really focusing more about what we care about, which is creating better learning environments. So it took us a while to kind of figure out who we are, and and every day we continue to fail and get better at what we do. But that's pretty much the glowing example of what not to do. That should be a case study of what not to do.
Yeah, I could see that working in maybe home furniture and decor, stuff like that. But when you're working with schools,
Yeah.
probably not the best way to go.
I
Maybe
know.
not.
I think we
There
were
are just
in.
too many jokes.
I know. Well, I don't know if you remember back. Kmart had a campaign, a commercial campaign where they were trying to ship things. Do you remember that, where they talk about shipping your pants and
No.
shipping your bed?
I missed all these jokes
No.
somehow. Where was I?
Oh man, yeah. I'll find the video for that.
Yeah,
one
Kevin, I want you to send me
that was really funny, and it got a lot of attention. We're like, oh, maybe
I
we
bet,
should do
yeah.
something.
Oh,
like that.
God.
There's where it came from.
Yes.
Hey, there's been many stories where a teacher has made a comment that in their head it sounded fine, and then it came out and you were like, I wish I hadn't said that. So, everyone's got those fail stories. I think yours is funny. So there's a celebration there somewhere. We're all having a good laugh. But Kevin, I want you to tell me, with everything you're doing, whether it be, everything in education that you've been able to have some sort of part in, whether it be a failure or a success, what do you find is really the part that is fueling you? Like, in terms of what's keeping you excited, what's getting you excited about education and everything that you're involved in right now?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's seeing the kids' reactions and seeing, like, actually being able to visually see the amount of engagement changes when you change the learning environment for students. And that comes from, family of educators, of being a parent, and seeing, like the way kind of the traditional things were, where, like you all kind of have that vision of what pretty much any movie, every TV show that ever shows a school, they show a classroom of straight rows with the teacher in front and people with their heads down, totally disengaged. And there's a reason that's shown that way. I mean, yes, it's a big stereotype, and we're working to change that stereotype. But there's still the vast majority of classrooms around the country are set up that way. And then when you start looking at more engaging things of where the students can actually have some agency of their own space and be able to learn to their dominant learning style and be able to choose kind of their spaces and have more collaborative environments and maybe things on wheels, so they can go from group work to breaking away and working
Right.
on their own to presenting to the class. When you see that and you see the buzz that comes from that classroom, that's what fuels me, is knowing that it's literally just changing the environment can really change that. And then you think of like what that does for the kid, how much that affects their life and really sets them in the right direction moving forward, versus being totally disengaged and just like kind of dragging their way through school because that's what they were told that they have to do.
No, I totally get that. I've realized more and more that environment is a huge component of my success. Like, I really, whether it be a workspace or my physical classroom environment, it continues to be a focus for not only my own learning, but, an impact for my students as they learn in the same environment that I am. And so I love that that's something you're focusing on. I almost feel like we don't talk about it enough, to be honest. So I think you continuously pulling focus to the need that students have to have that space that fits their learning is very, very important.
Oh, I totally agree. And when I'm talking to kind of the administration level too, of like, if you want to do change, it is almost impossible to do change without changing the physical environment.
Absolutely.
Because you can talk about it all you want. The second they go back to their classroom that they've been in for, teachers have been in for 10 years, where it's almost impossible to do that. You really have to change that physical environment.
So, Kevin, I guess I have a follow-up question to that, because I'm fortunate to talk to principals a lot about this concept, and a lot of what I hear is fear. And they feel like the physical environment, changing that feels very permanent. It's like a very large statement. It's overwhelming to them. And I even had a principal tell me when I was discussing flexible seating, I had a teacher that was taking a risk. They were going to completely change up their environment with this massive grant they won. And the principal said, well, once you move those desks out of there, you may not get them back. And then I'm like, yeah, I mean, geez, is that really the scariest thing we have going for us right now? That we're not going to get those horrible
That's right.
chairs back someday?
That's right. Yeah, it's almost like yeah. I always look. I'm like those horrible those desks and those chairs are especially the ones that are combined, those big bulky ones. Like
Yes.
to me, I view those as they're almost like cigarettes.
Yeah, right.
Like you are doing more harm than good.
That's
So
hysterical.
that it literally like and that's funny that that's the example I use because I talk about that a lot. To be like, well, what can I do? I don't have a whole lot of money. I'm like, well, the first thing to do is get rid of the things that we know are doing harm.
Right.
So get rid of them. Like you are better off literally having no desk and no chairs and just letting the kids kind of lay on the ground or figure out like where they're comfortable because they're going to be more engaged in that than sitting in those bulky kind of chair desk. We call them the combo ones, but kind of that traditional chair desk where like you're basically putting them in this little cell of saying like sit here and try to absorb what the teacher is putting in front of you, and that it's doing more harm than good. So it is, yeah. So that's a good example. Be like, all right, if they want to get rid of them, perfect. Maybe that's the best start because kids are going to start bringing things in, teachers are going to start bringing things in, and you're going to start filling up that room with what the kids actually want to be sitting and learning.
Absolutely. I mean, I intentionally bought folding tables for my classroom because I'm like, well, first of all, they're cheap on Amazon. So if they break, they break. And by the way, they haven't. I've had them for over 5 years, but also they fold in half. So when you want to clear the room to do a great activity to change up the space, they almost like disappear in storage. And so there's so many options for teachers out there. Jeff, one of my favorite things that we did a year ago when we made that flexible seating challenge, that email series.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And truly it was just to like get teachers thinking about what they could do on any sort of small scale. I think that's so important.
For sure. Yeah. But I always say you can go to Costco and you can have a room furnished for, like a couple $100, which are better than probably 80% of the classrooms that are out there right now.
Yeah, right.
So this really isn't about money. I know that's usually the first thing that comes back is like, well, I don't have the money to do that. And I get that. And I get, like we're really pushing people to challenge complacency and try to get out of it. But it's not about money. It's really about a mindset shift.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So that perfectly transitions into our question about advice. We've talked a lot about, we obviously, our listeners are educators, but you've talked a lot about flexible space and wanting environment to be a focus. So if you were talking to a teacher, you had a listener's ear that was listening to your story, really buying into this idea of slowly making this change to really ensure that we're supporting students the best way possible. I mean, geez, you compared desks to cigarettes. So we have people who really want to make this shift and help make this transition in their own classroom. What advice do they need to even begin this process?
Yeah, and I'm really big on not giving advice and just kind of sharing experiences of what others have done and what I've seen done and what we have done. And it really is kind of starting with that blank slate. It's starting to say like, well, what is it that I want to do? Starting with like, like what's the goal of it? And, if your school has a goal or your district has a goal, that's a pretty good direction that you should probably be following in. But if they aren't laying that out in front of you, just figure that out for yourself and for your students of what do you want them to accomplish at the end of the school year? What does success look like? And when you kind of start with that at the end, with that goal and that end in mind, it starts all making more clear, and the plans become kind of laid out there for you. Because if you're saying, "Hey, I want my kids to really be able to interact with each other, and I really want to make sure that they're working as a team and collaboration, being able to present back to each other, or I have a project-based learning initiative," whatever that is, that should almost be the central thing, and then start working backwards from that. Um, so the experiences that I've seen where they've done the best are the teachers that just take ownership of it. We talk about the champions. It could be a teacher, it could be a student, it could be an administrator, it could be a parent, it could be a community leader, or just somebody who's part of the community. We've seen it happen kind of at every level, and all it just takes is somebody to say like, "No, I'm going to try something different." And the nice thing is that somebody around the country has probably already done what you're thinking about doing. So there's a big community of people out there that can share their experiences as well. So if this is something that you think is important for you, just take that first step. Just take that first step, because every project that we've done, every school that we've worked with, it all started with one person saying that this is important, and it all starts there.
Awesome advice. I'm really loving your perspective and your viewpoint on education and stuff. So that's really cool. Which gets me excited for doing these 6 questions. So we're going to do the next 6 questions, and your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Okay, let's do
All right,
it.
give us one ed tech tool or tech tool that you cannot live without.
Calendly.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
I'm reading Talking with Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
There's Dr. Robert Dillon. He's spent a lot of time in this space, and he's a really good resource.
Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators, maybe somewhere where you go for like inspiration or learning, or something that keeps you learning and growing.
Yeah, there's an organization called A4LE, which is Association for Learning Environments, and that's a really good resource for us.
And then give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine you think every teacher should get into.
For this, it's really just surrounding yourself with the positivity. I think it's really easy to find the negative and that kind of drive, like really get into you. But finding that time you get to have the positivity, whether it's podcasts like this, books, and I'm really big on mastermind groups or just different types of peer groups that can be done. It doesn't need to be in person. There's a lot of virtual ones like that. And it's one of the biggest game changers, because you start really seeing what other people are doing, and it's a way of just like kind of raising everyone's game.
I love that. And to offshoot on that, there's Voxer is a really great app that's creating a lot, I think, of those mastermind groups where people are just coming together and sharing a lot, which has been really, really cool and really powerful for me personally as well. So lastly, best piece of advice you've ever received.
Yeah, this was one that one of my early managers had, and it was just simple of like, plan your day. It's really easy. I mean, obviously, for the teachers, they have, like there's a lot of planning that comes involved with that, but it's all those little things too that kind of happen. There's always going to be the stuff that you're just going to have to deal with. But for me, it's always like every single day, I write out kind of the main things that I need to do the next day. And I don't end my day until I have that written out and make that a priority.
Loving it. Boom. What do you think, Ray?
I'm a planner. I totally agree. That is a constant conversation in my world is, like, what does my day look like? What are the unknowns that I can work to, like finding the answer to? I love that advice.
Well, good. We get along really well then with our list.
Yeah. See, there you go. So, Kevin, I want to make sure our listeners can connect with you, because I'm confident that they are going to have so many more questions, so many more ideas that they're going to want to run past you. So would you mind sharing how other people can get connected?
Yeah, really the best way, you can start at our website. It's k12.com, but it's spelled weird. It's KAY and then a dash or a hyphen and then 12 spelled out, TWELVE.com. And we have a lot of resources on out there, and including a book that we wrote about this called Creating Better Learning Environments. And we'll have that available for you too. I don't know if I can send it to you guys. So for your listeners, we can send it out as a PDF. I'm really big of, we wrote this book not to sell them. We want to spread the word.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to send that over, Kevin, you give us a link. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes.
Okay. Yep. We'll have that out.
All right. Awesome. And speaking of that, you can find all the links and resources and what we talked about with Kevin over in the show notes over at teachbetter.com. So as well as those links to connect and get that PDF download of the book. So head to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. Let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and share this podcast with them. Kevin, man, this has been great. Really enjoyed having you on. Like I said, I really love your perspective and the way in which you view school and your experiences in there, and really just enjoyed kind of diving into your head and learning some more about it, man. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Keep up the good work, and glad you're representing my states that I've lived in with Illinois and Ohio.
Yeah, right.
We'll do what we can. I love it. So, all right. Until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.